is Frank Lavinia. With me is Candace co-host of the Impact Quantum podcast. And you know what? We'll make this an Impact Quantum podcast as well. Just taking that content reuse to the next level, right?
Excellent. Excellent. I
If you
love it.
are watching this, though, I do have an ad for my new AI book called "The Owning the AI Sovereignty Stack." Basically, goes through and what it takes for nations and enterprises, what they actually need to own in the age of AI. So it's kind of turned into one hot quantum summer, isn't it?
Oh my goodness gracious. Today they called it yellow warning. And if you looked at the sky, it was this like burnt yellow gray color. And my son, who's in Ottawa, said they're expecting potentially a tornado.
Oh my God.
So, and we don't get tornadoes here in like Quebec and Ontario, really. So that's a
No.
big deal. When it gets really hot, Canadians freak out. We can't take the heat. The cold, not a
Uh,
problem at all. But once it gets too hot, we become completely dysfunctional.
yeah, yeah. My HVAC was broken until
Ooh,
this morning. So
ooh,
yeah, it's already cooled like 10 degrees in my office this
that's
morning. So
crazy. Oh, you
since
know
I
what?
fixed it.
That's crazy. I want to show you. Can you see this?
Yeah, what is that?
Okay, this is apparently a brand new what they call an air conditioner.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be put into your window, and it sits across the desk. You can prop it up on the wall. You can prop it up anywhere you want to. And to me, it just seems like a very cute little fan, but it's supposed to really cool you down. And I'm not going to joke, it's really quite good.
Interesting.
So I thought I'm always looking for something new, a new AC, a new way to cool down. Like I said, I can't take the heat. Can't take it,
Well, you
right?
moved to Montreal for a reason, right? Like, it was not to like sit through stifling summers, you know?
No, no, not at all, right? No, not at
Yeah, it's
all.
crazy. We yeah, I'm in Maryland, so I moved south, unlike you, moved north from New York. So I kind of can only complain but so much. But as long as we have a decent HVAC, I'll be okay.
I mean, they're
And
saying that by 2020, like 50, Montreal is going to be tropical.
I heard that by 2020, like in 2000, so
Okay.
I would take that with a grain of salt.
I would see it's changed pretty dramatically in the past, like 4 to 5 years.
Yeah,
Like,
last
all
couple
of
of
a
years have
sudden,
been kind of weird.
there's been a
Yeah.
shift. Like, the summer will go all the way into September, and just the seasons are just changing. They're shifted by, like, a month. So, things are changing a little bit, but,
Right, right.
I don't wish tropical on anybody,
Well, if you want a tropical, you want to move there,
unless you
right?
want tropical, right?
Yeah, you would move there, right? As long as I have a good HVAC. And my new to me car actually has cooled seats.
That's cool. I think that sounds so fantastic because you don't think about, like, being able to cool down from the seat up.
No, no, no. It feels very awkward, actually. You're like, did I sit in water? Like,
It
that's kind of the vibe of it. And
would
so
probably be great today.
it was awesome this morning. I'm not gonna lie. I sat in the seat and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to put up with this anymore. Hit the button. Like 30 seconds later, ooh, it's nice and cool.
Hey,
So
you're balling, you're feeling good. I love it.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. And for those who don't know, on the podcast, I actually switched jobs. You'll notice if you're watching this, you'll notice the fedora is gone. I now work at ClearML, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But today, let's make it about quantum computing.
Well,
So
oh, go
what's
ahead.
going on? Because like the last, I was out of town for a little bit, and I saw that there was an executive order on quantum computing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. The US government seems to really be doubling down on quantum. They had the White House Quantum Summit, and that brought together leaders from government, IBM, IonQ, Inflection, and some other industry players, and they're discussing accelerating commercialization. They're talking about centered around national security, manufacturing, drug discovery, which I think is so incredibly fascinating,
Yeah,
and, maintaining a US competitiveness against China.
it's funny. I was talking to someone today about quantum tech, and I sent them a link to our global report, which is still out there, and probably should update it sometime soon.
It might be
'Cause it's
time now,
been a
yeah.
few months, yeah. But I can't imagine that too much of the map has changed, because if you look at the big movers, let me share my screen. The big movers are still the big movers.
Yeah.
Like, it's still primarily you know, the greens are still green. I don't think anyone has really moved from, zero to be on the map, but I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. Israel, I forgot that Israel was added to the most recent update, and they are at a 4.4, which, to put it in perspective, the United States is 4.9, China is 4.4 as well. So they're pretty much on par with China. I think Japan comes in second. Or is it Canada?
Canada
Oh,
is
five.
pretty heavy into quantum. I
Yeah,
have
let's see. Can I switch to table view? There we go. We want the table view. I think we can sort on the score. So right now, it's actually US, France, UK, Germany, and I think Canada is on the map, but it's in the green, right? That's pretty
mhm.
much, you know, pretty
But there's
important.
a really active and vibrant startup culture in France and in
Yeah.
Israel, especially,
Yeah,
that
Israel startups are very serious,
they
and
were
we've
that's
interviewed a bunch of them. Yeah, both
that's
here
right,
and on Data Driven. Yeah.
and that's just really ratcheted up their interest. I
Hmm.
know Canada has 3 separate corridors within the country. They're building a 4th now, I believe out in Alberta.
That's
Um,
where I can't think of her name right now, but that's where the satellite lady.
oh, yes.
I can't think of her
Katya,
name now.
Katya, Katya. Katya, it's Katya.
Dr. Kuntz, right?
Yes, Katya
Yeah,
Kunst.
Dr. Kuntz. I
Mhm,
forgot
mhm.
what her first name was. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So
I'm not totally losing it yet. I'm
nah, I
following
just need more
things.
coffee, right? And I'll blame it on the heat. But no, like, and what's interesting, I was actually 2 months ago now. I was at the Red Hat Summit in Atlanta. Speaking of hot, um, and I was talking to a journalist from Le Mag IT, uh, who, we were talking about AI and, the sovereignty push and things like that. And I'm like, France has got a lot going for it, right? Not just the people, but also the infrastructure, right? They built out a pretty heavy nuclear power infrastructure, and that is obviously relatively cheap, relatively clean way to power. And so they don't have the power shortage I think a lot of other industrialized nations do. Certainly that's a hot topic. Data center build out is a hot topic in the US.
There's a place, I wanna say, I think it's in Alberta, but
Mhm.
Meta, they just bought a nice piece of land, I
Yeah.
believe, in Alberta where they are going to create a data storage facility.
Yep.
And the only reason I don't say the only reason, but one of the reasons why they were allowed to move forward is because they have to come up with their own energy source to do
Yep.
this,
Yep.
and not like tax the people that are all around them that are not gonna get any benefit from it being there.
I was listening to Bloomberg the other day, and they referred to it as, I sound very like, doing the, who's the guy inside the actor studio, this
Oh,
gesture.
I thought
And I was listening to Bloomberg the other day.
listen.
But they were referring to this as the first AI election, where AI is going to be a major thing, not just for the obvious things of the job concerns about the job market and things like that, but also in terms of political ads being generated by AI, all sorts of shenanigans happening there, but also data centers. Data centers are going to be crucial to this, right? There's a number of counties in Maryland that have put data center moratoriums on. Now, I think a lot of it is that some of these counties were not really prime targets for data center development, so it's a cheap and easy win for politicians. I don't think anyone was going to do a build out of 20-acre site inside Baltimore City. Really don't think that was on the cards for a number of reasons. But they get a cheap political win, like kind of like banning plastic straws, right? It's a pretty cheap. Don't get me started on that, but it's a cheap political win, right?
Mhm.
But there are counties where that is going to be a hot issue. The thing that bothers me and impacts me at least indirectly is they want to run a high power line basically from Pennsylvania to Data Center Alley, which is just across the river in Virginia. And so they're going to take these high power lines, seize all this land to run those lines, farmland mostly, actually.
Mhm.
And no one in Maryland is going to see any of that power, right? It's not about they're trying to pitch it as a reliability. It's like not the connection is going straight. They're not saying from 3 Mile Island to basically Microsoft's data center, but that's pretty much the two biggest sources. So like it's kind of obnoxious, I think.
Oh, it's totally obnoxious. I remember when I used to live in Brewster, New York, and
Mhm.
we had tons of water around us, and then when we first moved there, we got a water bill, a water bill, and it
Right.
was it was for, like, $400 for the quarter, and I was like, "Why are we having a water bill?" And all the water that was around us was not for any of us. It was being sent over to specific places in New York City to use. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Wow." It was my first kind of entrance into the whole idea that some of the natural resources that were around are not necessarily for the people that live there,
Right,
but
right,
are
right,
for those that are paying more for it, right?
right.
Yeah, a little pay to
That's
play moment there. That
that's
was that was
obnoxious.
shocking. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and there's probably somebody in the west coast of the U.S. or the western half of the U.S. who's laughing at this because water has always been a contentious issue from like
right,
Colorado down to Arizona. Is it the Colorado River? I think
right.
that people are kind of upset about. And it's funny how these
Mhm,
resources
mhm.
can quickly become political issues, right? I know that I'm not exactly sure, and I know we're not talking about quantum computing per se, although indirectly we are, right? Because there's two ways to do quantum computing, right? One, you emulate it on a bunch of massively parallel GPUs and supercomputers, right? That's one way. The other way is to have an honest to goodness quantum computer, which ought to use a lot less resources. So maybe that's part of it too, right? Because the grace period of if you want to build a data center, I would say up until a few years ago, most people didn't know what a data center was. Right now, everybody knows, and it's not they don't respond to in a good way, right? Um, I always joke, people are like, because I have some acres, not a lot, single digit, but way more than I had when I lived in the Bronx, which was zero, exactly
Right?
zero. But I say, like, well, why would you want that? I'm like, well, so originally I would say, so somebody doesn't build a super Walmart like there on the other, in my backyard. Now it's like, no, so they don't build a data center.
Mhm. No, it's true.
um,
It's true.
yeah. And I always joke with my wife, I'm like, I want 100 acres, right? Because don't want a data center, and even however far away the tree line is from me.
Remember when I was looking at the places that had little
Yeah.
forests, like, I was like, let me have a mini forest so that I can, be insulated from, like, whatever's on the other side of it."
I
You know
think
what
a
I
big
mean?
problem has been that data centers are zoned as light industrial, right?
Okay.
So that's a big, I mean, obviously I'm not a urban planner or anything like that, but the gist is that one of the issues in this is Loudoun County, Virginia, which is basically where half of Dulles Airport's in Loudoun, half that's in Fairfax, Northern Virginia, which has the most number of data centers in the world than anywhere else, which is amazing to think about, just like one part of one US state. And it the guy lived there, he had a townhouse or something like that, and they have like a little walking path and stuff like that. And then literally like 100 feet away, there's a data center. And those things make noise 24/7, right? There's no
Mhm,
downtime for them.
mhm.
And that's what local activists said. It's like they're classified as light industrial, right? So the assumption is that light industrial would have quiet times, whereas
Right.
centers do not have quiet times.
No, and it disturbs the
Right.
people, it disturbs the nature.
Right. It's not like, light industrial where they're making like, it's like a glass factory or whatever, right? Because they're not going to be working 24/7, right? They're not going to be working there on weekends, right? It's going to be quiet. You don't have any quiet with that, which I think is a big part of it too. But also too, if you think about it, it's not hard to imagine a scenario where the federal government, whoever is running it, right? Trying not to make it about a particular person, um, can say like data centers are on top national security, could supersede all laws, which would be really impactful. I can easily see that because like the backlash against the data centers, I think is going too far the other way, just a little,
Okay.
just a little. Like I wouldn't want a data center in my backyard, right? But well, actually, I
No.
might, but I'm a different case. But you know, it's interesting because I can see why people would. It comes another not in my backyard type thing, right? It's going to end up in somebody's backyard, right? And it's
Exactly.
kind of like, but at least Loudoun County, I think part of the reason why Loudoun County has been people who live there have been so accepting of it is that something like 60% of the tax base is covered by the data centers. Yeah,
Really?
something like really ridiculous. So I was talking to somebody who lives there. He's like, yeah, we our property tax bills haven't changed in 20 years. I mean, they're not going down,
Oh,
which is another thing,
right.
but they've stayed flat, and a lot of it is this. And I suspect that is probably why a lot of these counties and jurisdictions they want the data center. So, on one hand, politicians want it. On the other hand, politicians don't want it. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
It's true. It's true. And like you said, there's certain countries that are just taking it more
Right.
seriously than
Right.
others and just building and building and building, right? Like we mentioned, we talked about Canada before
Right.
and recent things, Xanadu, which is in Toronto, plans to do a data center to integrate photonic quantum computing with AI,
Interesting. Interesting.
which I think is very exciting. And then there's different Canadian companies discussing sovereign quantum ready data
Right.
centers and the strategy behind combining HPC, high performance computing, AI, and quantum.
Right.
So it's very real. It's very much happening. You know, Milan is another place I didn't know, but I found out that Milan is deploying a metropolitan quantum secure data center network.
Interesting. Milan, Italy, I assume. Actually,
Yes.
doesn't surprise me because Milan is a financial capital. Where you have a
Mhm.
financial capital, and again, with the previous episode that the guest that we had, he talked about the risks of what could happen if the financial system is compromised by a foreign state actor with the quantum. So I'm not surprised. Quantum networking is
Right.
probably going to be the first big boom industry.
I think so. I really do. I absolutely think that's what's gonna
Right.
happen because quantum networking combines the communication and the idea of the quantum
Right.
internet and brings in enterprise and brings in government. So that's really, you're right, quantum networking and communications, and that's all going to be probably the
Right.
first,
Because that's the
you
one
know.
that's
Where,
most at immediate risk, I would say, and
yes, exactly.
relatively easy to solve. Like in terms of the quantum safe now, relatively easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Don't send the hate mail, but it is definitely relatively easy to solve. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Speaking of quantum technology, Microsoft hit a qubit milestone. They've
Ooh.
announced 1,000 times improvement in qubit lifetime from 12 milliseconds to over 20 seconds with their topological
Oh.
qubit architecture. Um, this
Mm.
breakthrough potentially halves their timeline for producing a scalable quantum computer, which I know IBM has set a date of 2029. And Microsoft, I don't think has given a timeline, but it's looking like late 2020s, early 2030s is going to be the magic moment here,
Ooh,
which is scary
that's
to think
crazy.
about. It's only 3 years
It's
away.
very scary. Well, I mean, we're in 2026 when people keep on saying 2030, and that is only 4 years away,
Three and
not
a
even
half.
anymore.
We're halfway through 2026.
Exactly, that just blows my mind, like, I'm like, "How did that
My
even happen?"
teenager a
Right?
couple weeks ago referred to the late 1900s, and I had to sit down. I had to take a step back.
You mean like the
Yeah, the
'90s?
late 19.
Like,
Referred
okay.
to that the web was started in the late 1900s.
Oh my god, the way he says that.
Right? It just takes
That's
the wind
the
out of
late
you.
1900s. I've never heard that before. That's very
It's
damaging. I don't know.
technically correct, so I suspect we'll hear a lot more of it.
Right, right.
Late 1900s.
That's crazy.
Um,
That's very funny.
But
That's crazy.
yeah, no,
That's when my daughter turned 18, and then she called herself freshly 18.
freshly
I'm like,
18.
"I don't know about
Yeah,
that."
I don't
I
understand Gen Z or Gen Alpha humor. I know
I don't,
my
'cause they speak an entirely different language.
right, like my middle son has a YouTube channel and it's been getting viral. And basically, what it does is take clips of movies, puts a caption on it. There's one from the Angry Birds movie where they take a bird and they fling him out through a slingshot. And on top
Mhm.
says when you get kicked out of the group chat for like whatever reason. And there's always like weird like get out like meme type things going on. And
Right.
he's like, "Isn't that the funniest thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think
It
it
is
is
funny.
funny." But he's got like a couple thousand views on just that one like little short. I'm like, man. I mean, it's funny.
Interesting.
That's my experience with Gen Alpha, Gen Z humor is kind of, or Gen Z for our Canadian listeners. Is like I think it's funny. I don't understand it, but I think it's supposed to be funny.
It's
Yeah, like
funny.
freshly 18. Like,
I
okay.
Yeah, like, I don't get it, and they take words like
Mhm.
aesthetic, and then they use it in an entirely incorrect
Right.
way, and then they're like, "But that's an aesthetic." I'm like, "No, that's not an
Hmm.
aesthetic. No, it's not." Like, "No, that's how we use it." Yeah, just because you use
Doesn't
it
make it right.
doesn't mean you use it correctly. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it okay. It's very funny. It's very, very funny.
Yeah, it was what a time to be alive, as they say.
Oh my goodness.
But cool. So and are there any other quantum news or deals? I know you had said something about somebody was moving from into the venture capital space.
Yeah, so Alana Wisby,
Mhm.
okay, she's a founding CEO of Oxford Quantum
That's
Circuits
right. It was
and
Oxford.
has
Yeah.
now joined Cambridge Innovation Capital as a venture partner. And her move really highlights a broader trend, which is experienced quantum operators are increasingly moving into venture investing, helping identify and scale the next generation of quantum startups.
Interesting.
And you're starting to see more and more of these kind of shifts happening into, because venture capital is, investors are continuing to bet on the quantum
Right.
ecosystem. And while other things might be a little bit more volatile, quantum hardware, software, these enabling technologies are just really taking off and exciting people.
Well, yeah, and where venture capital money flows, attention goes to, right? Both
Right.
real and imagined, right? So I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of venture capitalists who feel they missed the AI wave. I think they don't want to make that mistake, right? And I think I was actually talking to somebody today, actually, and he's that basically giving him our pitch that you don't have to be a quantum physicist or have a PhD to be in this. So you're going to need people that understand this and are able to market it all the way from marketing it to selling it to racking and stacking them to
Mhm.
pulling the plug on it and restarting it from time to time. Like it's another IT kind of engine, you know one that hopefully will make the need for less data centers.
Well, the conversation has
Mhm.
shifted from the idea of can quantum
Right,
work to how do we build the ecosystem that allows
right,
quantum to become
right,
useful? Because it's happening.
right,
Not as fast or as slow as all the predictions have been, but it's
right.
real. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
absolutely. Another plug for a book, Quantum Sales Playbook. Right. They've added a
Absolutely.
bunch of features to Restream here, so I'm just taking advantage.
Oh, I love
No,
it.
but I mean,
I love yours.
if you have venture capital flowing into this, right, it is very clearly a very real technology. It was venture capital that, for good or for bad, made the dot-com boom, right? It
Mhm,
is venture
mhm.
capital that made Facebook or Meta or whatever they're calling themselves now, right? And obviously the AI boom also required a lot of venture capital. So it's always good to know where their heads are at because that's probably what the next industry is going to be headed to. And the fact that they're recruiting experts in the field to kind of vet the technology,
Mhm.
I think also says a lot too, right? So we're seeing that bridge from academia to industry to now venture capital. I think that you're going to see a lot of that in the future. And speaking of which, there's another book that we wrote, Quantum Curious. So you can check that out. And it's $2.99 on Amazon. Check it out.
Steal.
It's a
It's a
steal.
steal.
What a deal. And but with that in mind, all jokes aside, um, I really think that once the error correction problem gets solved, I think a lot of other problems will fall too.
Oh, I
You
think
know,
so. I think so. I think as they start to prove out different
right,
things, you know what I mean? Like, what did I read about? I read about it's in Denmark, the Technical University of Denmark. They just demonstrated a hybrid AI quantum workflow that generated novel peptides for drug discovery. This is huge, right? It's proving how incredibly valuable
right,
quantum can be in certain situations. Now it's harder because a lot of times these biological data sets are actually relatively
right.
small, which is not what people think about for the good use of
Hmm.
quantum. But quantum kind of accelerated some of this information, and drug discovery is something that so many people are really excited about
Right.
that can solve some real problems we're
Well, it's not
having.
so much the size of the data set, it's the potential for the options that can go with it. Think of it like chess, right? There's only 64 squares and 16 pieces to 32 pieces, right? But there's effectively an infinite amount of moves that you can make. It's kind of like that if you're simulating a molecule, right? And then
Hmm.
that's basically how do drugs interact, how do drugs apply, like that sort of thing. It's kind of like that. That's how it
That's
was
exciting.
described to me. So even if
That's
the data set's
exciting.
small, it doesn't really matter. Like they uses one example
Doesn't
of
really matter
modeling the
then.
caffeine
Okay.
molecule, which is a relatively simple molecule, right? Like how does it interact with different systems? Well, it's got maybe like half a dozen molecules with so many different types of, I don't know, like somebody could say much more, but like it gets complicated real fast. Orders of magnitude.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's yours. Oh, I have another
Yeah.
one. I have the UK funds trillion operation hybrid quantum
Ooh,
algorithms,
that's a lot of buzzwords in one
right?
space. What does that exactly
Right?
mean?
So they said as part of the national quantum
Mhm.
strategy, the UK announced funding focused on developing hybrid quantum classical algorithms designed for future quantum computers capable of roughly 1 trillion operations.
Wow. I feel like Dr. Evil. 1 trillion.
Right? So it's not the emphasis isn't simply on building the better
Right.
hardware, but that governments are investing in the software ecosystem so that algorithms will be
Right.
ready when the fault-tolerant machines
I mean,
arrive.
that makes sense, right? Because you have to build the hardware. It's chicken or the egg type problem. But that is interesting.
Right? So, yeah, so we talked about Denmark, we talked about the UK, Canada. Oh, did you hear about, um, the Lumi AI
No,
factory,
what's that?
which is Europe's largest supercomputer, is getting a quantum
Ooh.
upgrade. So the Lumi AI factory selected Finnish company IQM, so now we're talking about
Mhm.
Finland, to integrate a superconducting quantum computer directly into one of Europe's most powerful supercomputing environments.
Nice.
I mean, they're talking about truly creating something hybrid.
Nice.
And I think that's interesting because maybe then quantum is supposed to replace the idea of the supercomputer.
Yeah, I mean, you build a lot of these supercomputers so you can solve really tough problems, and a lot of these happen to be a lot of the same types of problems quantum computers are really good at. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll get hate mail for that statement, but I don't think it'll replace it. But I think the market for it is going to drop significantly. There's still going to be some things that you'll need a supercomputer, and if nothing else, you can get supercomputers on fire sale. So you could have a data center in your backyard, but you would own it. I could
Okay.
dream.
Yes. And it's important also to note how the questions have changed. Like we used to talk about, a year ago, a year and a half ago, we were talking about, how many qubits do we have? How do those finite amount of qubits work? Now we're talking more about how does quantum improve AI? Which workloads will actually benefit from hybrid computing?
Right.
How do enterprises deploy it?
Right.
Honestly, how do we prepare our cybersecurity before the hardware arrives?
Those are all very big questions, and we're still dealing with a lot of that now. I mean, you look at the drama that's going around about Claude Fable, the new OpenAI models, right? They have been on some kind of lockdown, or they have to get permission from the US government first. And it's not hard to see that this is in a world that is quickly, I wouldn't say it's rapidly getting unstable, but definitely the direction is towards less stability and more drama. How does technology play into this, right? We talk about this being the first AI election, right? This could be the first AI conflict, right? We're already
Mhm,
seeing what
mhm,
drones are doing in autonomous warfare and things like that. Stay
right?
tuned to that space too. But
Well, yeah, really, drones
yeah,
have done a tremendous amount in the
yep,
Ukraine-Russia war, and I think now there's an issue. I think the Ukrainians might be, like, the best ones at building
they
drones
are.
now,
Yeah,
and, and drones are so very much the future.
they're gonna. I
Um,
was at an event a few years ago, and it was retired general saying it's going to change the nature of warfare like the tank did or the machine gun did. And when he said it, I was kind of like, I think you're overselling it there. And then so many years later, I'm like, nah, he knew what he was talking about.
right?
Because today's hype sometimes fizzles, but sometimes is right on the money. And I think in that case he was. And we saw how drones have
I'm
changed
so glad.
the nature of warfare in the Middle East, right? With the ongoing conflict there,
Right.
right? You know, and it's interesting how it becomes an economic situation too, right? You can send 10 to $2 million missile to kill a $30 or $300 drone, right? That's
Right.
not sustainable, right?
No, not at
And
all.
so it's interesting how everything is going to have to adapt to that.
Mhm.
Well, cool. I think it's been an interesting episode, and we've been online for 36 minutes, and it's usually good time. But I'm glad to be streaming again, and good to have you on camera, and not just me talking into the ether. We're both talking into the ether. And
There you
if
go.
you like what we're doing, be sure to like, share, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching. And if you're listening to us on the Quantum podcast, we'll let the outro music play now. There you go. Also, if you are not listening to us on the Impact Quantum podcast, you totally should be. Go like,
Yes.
share, and subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And we're at season 4, episode what, 15, 16? I feel
Yeah, I
like I
believe
should know
so.
this offhand.
I feel no, I think we're more than that. Aren't we on Impact Quantum? We're at season 4, but aren't we like episode, oh, I
25.
don't know,
This will be
25. Oh,
26,
so
yeah.
there you
And then
go.
it's Women in
We're on
Quantum. It's
episode
on
s
16.
we're on episode 16 on
Right.
women in quantum. That's what making me
So,
think about
and
that.
that's another show.
So,
If you're interested in that, go to impactquantum.com/women, I believe. Let me double check
mhm.
that. Yep, that works. And we have Alicia Weldon talking about surviving setbacks and building confidence. And you've had a lot of interesting conversations there.
Thank you. Thank you. I've really been excited about it. I really enjoy talking to women about the
Yeah.
journey that they take in this space because everyone comes from somewhere else.
Yeah, there's very few
Everyone just comes
quantum
from
natives,
different
right? Like
places.
nobody, as someone had once told us, there's already enough PhDs here, right? So
Right.
there's definitely that. I was actually Petra Soderling that I spoke to early, never recorded this. She didn't want to be on the show, but you managed to convince her to be on Women in Quantum. So that's cool. You should check that.
And she's
Yeah.
brilliant. Brilliant.
Where is she now?
So,
Finland or Paris? I forget.
Petra, I believe Petra's in
Okay.
Paris, but now
Yeah,
I'll
she
have to
was in the
check.
US for a while. She's Finnish, but
Right.
was doing work for the Finnish government and such.
But that's it. These women, honestly, that their international experience is
Hmm.
legendary. And it's just really exciting to see them go from country to country for the next opportunity and the next opportunity and continue to flow and create this greater international ecosystem
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is
The
brilliant.
one lady, a bunch of them, one lady came from Latin America, then went to Japan, then went somewhere else in the meantime. I forget. It was like,
Bruna,
yes, it was Bruno.
her name is
Yeah,
Bruna. Fascinating, fascinating. First one I'd had from
that's
Brazil.
right. She was from Brazil.
It was really great to talk to her and hear about again how she went from country to country to gain different perspective and different aspects of her
Right.
education. It's
So definitely
fantastic.
check out both those shows. And of course, check out Data Driven at datadriven.tv. And of course, franksworld.com. So, all right. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. All right, everyone. Bye bye. I'll play the outro music.
Candace and Frank blowing my mind at last. Quantum podcast, they're breaking the mold. Science and sky beats, it's bold and it's gold. The multiverse is skanking in time. Black holes are wailing in a horn line so fine. From Planck scales to planets, they're connecting the dots. Candace and Frank, they're the cosmic hot shot. Quantum podcast, turn it up fast. Candace and Frank blowing my mind at last. Quantum podcast, they're breaking the mold. Science and sky beats, it's bold and it's gold.